We are approaching the 1 year anniversary of Battlefield 2042's launch and another annual shift in the gaming landscape, so I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about my thoughts of what's been a pivotal year for the Battlefield franchise. Myself and many others have already gone over the game's various strengths and weaknesses in more functional and mechanical detail, so I kind of wanted to look at this from a slightly more holistic angle. As a disclaimer, I've been playing Battlefield since Bad Company 2, and whilst I play many different types of games across many genres, you could easily argue that I'm a Battlefield fanboy. As much as I love the franchise though, it is very hard to ignore the current state of Battlefield 2042. There have been two pivotal moments just recently which certainly soured my relationship with 2042. Firstly was the rather abrupt but not entirely unexpected announcement that we would not be getting a server browser. The current system saves EA a ridiculous amount of money, but from the player perspective, a server browser would have addressed a significant portion of the game's many fundamental issues. More than that was the rather clinical fashion in which this was communicated, with no real consideration to offering an alternative, or even a suggestion they would try and make the current system work better, and we've certainly seen no significant improvements since. The second pivotal moment was the introduction of the Liquidators event in Season 2. In a game that has been dominated by horrendous vehicle imbalance since launch, the players have been begging for at least some respite with an infantry-focused experience. What should have been a surefire win for DICE and EA to curry favour with their remaining player base, instead turned out to be yet another disjointed mess. Poorly considered map layouts with undersized lobbies, essentially highlighting the game's failings rather than improving or even distracting from them. The real problem was not that we were presented with yet another poorly optimised experience, but that the devs also thought this would be an appropriate time to lock a fresh wave of content behind yet another paywall. For a paid-for game that by anyone's standards is nowhere near completion even 1 year in, charging for additional content behind a lazily implemented event just feels like a lazy exploitative cash grab. Introducing free-to-play monetization tactics in a paid-for game is a definite no-no, especially when some players already bought not only the base game, but also spent extra already for the Battle Pass. The absolute kicker for me though was that this event has essentially been a repeat of the main game's launch, just in microcosm. A disingenuous marketing campaign targeting the core players' hopes and desires, followed by unashamedly sloppy delivery and execution, all with the single-minded aim of increasing revenue rather than improving the player experience or restoring some integrity with the community. The message, rightly or wrongly, is that in a year since launch, core lessons have yet to be learned. Many new, returning and casual players are talking about how much the game has improved since launch, and talking about how much fun it is. And this is a good thing that leads me to believe Battlefield still has a future beyond this game. For long-time Battlefield players and people who have been playing this game since launch though, I think it's fair to say the sentiment is a lot more mixed, and leans much more negatively. Any progress and change has been long and drawn out. Development crawls from one patch to the next, but never fully giving us a mostly optimised experience. Don't get me wrong, I have enjoyed and do enjoy many parts of this game, and there is no such thing as a perfect game. There is no such thing as a perfect anything. The longer I've played though, the harder it's been to ignore or excuse the game's many failings, and the inconsistent experience throughout the player base. I for one can't remember the last time I played a session when one of the game's many bugs or design flaws didn't rear its ugly head. For new players that likely paid heavily discounted prices, or casual players that simply don't play enough to care, the game's flaws are easy to overlook, and there's nothing wrong with that. For them, the game now plays just fine. As long as no one is being hurt, you should be free to enjoy whatever you like, however you want. Battlefield as a franchise was never meant to be just fine though. At its various peaks, it has been one of the greatest gaming franchises on the planet, and a Battlefield game should be just that, great. There was a time when you could discuss it in the same breath as that other FPS stalwart, Call of Duty, and not be laughed out the room. Battlefield has never had the broad appeal that Call of Duty has, and nor should it try to. The two franchises offer different things in different ways, which is why until recently the two have coexisted so well for so long. How times have changed. As true AAA games, economics at this scale have different metrics. The Call of Duty franchise has sold over 400 million units over its lifetime. Battlefield has sold a no less impressive but comparatively smaller 60 million units. It is this disparity that I fear has been at the heart of EA's mindset with regards to their misguided priorities for the Battlefield franchise ever since they acquired the IP. It is worth pointing out now for people that may not be aware that games are not the end product in the gaming industry where shareholders are concerned. As far as EA, Activision and many other publishers and their shareholders are concerned, players are the end product. Look at the size of the player base our games have. Look at the exponential revenue potential they have spending money on games, cosmetics, DLCs, merchandise, product tie-ins, subscriptions, events, etc. Invest in us and we will return never-ending growth and profit. That is a very rough analogy, but it does emphasize the point that games are not the product, we are. Battlefield 2042 was knowingly and undeniably released by EA in an unfinished state, trading off the loyalty of one of the most passionate gaming communities on the planet for the sake of a much needed end-of-year revenue injection, and it was done to satisfy shareholders, not gamers. Game development is an unfathomably complex exercise, and at the heart of 2042's problems is a horribly notorious Frostbite game engine, potentially powerful but also extraordinarily difficult and time-consuming to work with. Unsurprisingly, these are facts that neither DICE nor EA wish to publicise, but they are known facts nonetheless. If EA didn't knowingly release the game in a broken state, they certainly overestimated how quickly things could be polished after the fact. EA made the decision to launch. DICE have had the unenviable task of seeing their franchise thrown to the wolves for the sake of a few dollars more and bear the already difficult responsibility of righting the ship. It is hard to pinpoint one single thing in this game that has broken the experience. Instead, it's an accumulation of mistakes and failures and substandard deliveries. Even now, as we approach the 1-year anniversary, the game is simply too easy to criticise, to dissect. Literally, not one aspect of the game feels optimised even now. Many other people have gone over the details of everything in other videos. I myself have constantly tried reminding people of the importance of patience, whilst slowly but surely losing my own. I've reminded people of the extraordinary difficulties and complications of game development, whilst also feeling that doesn't excuse substandard delivery and mercenary tactics. I, like many others, have rightly criticised the damaging effects of toxic negativity throughout the community, whilst feeling my own frustrations rise as the game misfires from one problem to another week by week. In no other industry would it be even vaguely acceptable to publicly release a product or deliver a service in this state. In the health sector, medicines have to be approved by a regulatory body, and checks and balances are in place to prevent bad practice. If you deliver an unfinished vehicle in the aviation or automotive industries, they either never get off the mark or people die. In the food industry, if you serve food underprepared or sell tainted produce, you will cause mass food poisoning and be held accountable accordingly. If, as a company or an individual, you want to be beyond reproach and beyond criticism, you have to be beyond reproach and beyond criticism. Never mind the competitive aspect in the general entertainment sphere, there is one thing that both publishers and devs need to hold in high consideration. If you're wondering how I and many other people can get so worked up about a game, then maybe ask yourself this question: how much do you value your time? More importantly, how much do you actually value your spare time? I dare say everyone values their spare time surprisingly highly. For many, it is the one thing people value the most, which is why passions run so high when you ask people to invest their spare time into your products, into your games, casually or competitively. There is a saying that all art is entertainment and all entertainment is art, but also that art helps us identify with one another and expands our notion of we, from the local to the global. The we is one way Battlefield truly set itself apart from other games, the sense of being part of a collective. In an age when it's so easy to observe the lives of others but also feel so disconnected at the same time, it is a truly rare thing. You can find experiences of small squad games easily, 4 to 6 man squad dynamics are fine, but in the FPS genre, Battlefield raised the bar by delivering a team experience, all pulling together in one direction. Not for a corporation, not for profit or a promotion, but for each other, for victory, for fun. Whilst many people toil anonymously throughout the daily grind of modern life, like the finest art, games like Battlefield offer an escape, offer a different perspective, offer a reminder that we are part of a shared experience. Didn't just feed our pockets or our stomachs, but also fed our sense of community. Think back to some of your favourite Battlefield moments, and I'm sure you'll also remember the people that were playing alongside you. We are being asked to settle for less when many of us are rightfully demanding more. I myself have not given up on 2042 and will continue playing when I can, but my hopes and expectations for its overall longevity beyond Season 4 have more or less completely faded. I hope against hope that I'm proved wrong. With all the right ingredients, what could and should have been one of the greatest gaming experiences of the current generation has instead been relegated to a technical exercise for DICE and EA to reverse engineer their own franchise. Whilst I still think we'll see improvements with 2042, I think our hopes that Battlefield regains its soul now lie with future releases and a new generation of gamers. Whether or not it will be enough to recall veterans of the franchise, only time will tell, and 1 year on, time is no longer on Battlefield's side.